susretanu sarà salapile druga velala lume, na unque lonava unque obrazanu navisha etherica silaya.
In a place where epic expanses intertwine with scientific imagination, we'll encounter races from other planets, both good and evil, and peer into the higher etheric energies that permeate our material universe. Sylvaeron breathed, not just with air and scalar waves, but with the symphony of the golden chain that pulsed through every being, every crystalline fiber, every gleaming forest leaf. After cycles of healing from Vuldan's tyranny and purification from Umbra Nox, the planet blossomed in its full glory. Its nature, now cleansed of dissonance, radiated vibrant hues of emerald green, azure blue, and gold, and rivers flowed crystal clear, carrying ancient memories and promises of the future. In the valleys, luminescent plants bloomed, illuminating the landscapes with soft, pulsating light that invited contemplation. Tall trees, with crowns reaching for the sky, whispered ancient tales on the wind, while beneath their branches lay serene lakes, mirrors of the starry heavens. The peace was deep, palpable, like the finest thread woven into the very fabric of their existence, promising eternity. The Sylvaerons reveled in every moment of this peace. Their cities, woven into nature, gleamed with organic architecture that grew from the very earth, never marring its perfection. There were no sharp edges, only fluid lines that blended seamlessly with the natural environment. Sylvaeron children played in scalar wave-light fields, their laughter echoing in harmony with the planet. Adults dedicated themselves to the art of scalar wave resonance, deepening their understanding of the chain, manifesting light sculptures, and creating music that healed the soul. Their long silver hair shimmered under the light of two suns, golden and silver, and their pale green eyes, now even clearer with an inner starlight, absorbed the beauty of the world they had preserved. Kaelen, whose life cycle now spanned several thousand cycles, sat at the heart of the nexus of harmony, constantly resonating with the planet. His being, woven from light and wisdom, was inextricably linked to Sylvaeron. He felt every current of higher etheric energy flowing through the crystalline cores, every blade of grass breathing, every drop of water carrying ancient memories. He was the conductor of this symphony of peace, a silent pillar of light. In that perfect balance, a jarring dissonance, cold and malevolent, pierced through the scalar waves. It wasn't a subtle whisper, but a cutting void, permeated with rage and insatiable greed. Kaelen's exceptional sight snapped open, overwhelmed by images of destruction and conquest, traveling faster than light. His mind, usually calm like a deep lake, reeled. Never before had they sensed such a cosmic vibration, alien yet recognizably malevolent, imbued with a sense of total annihilation. Nyana, Lyrian, do you feel this? Kaelen's mental message pulsed through the Sylvaenians' collective consciousness, rousing them from their peaceful contemplation. The urgency in his voice was a clear signal of danger, for Kaelen rarely showed panic. Nyana, who was meditating by an ancient crystalline lake at that moment, abruptly opened her pale green eyes. Her prophetic visions twisted, showing luminous orbs of light colliding with dark, jagged shadows. She felt waves of fear and fury, not from the Sylvaeons, but from the approaching threat. It's as if the entire universe is shifting. Unprecedented aggression. I've never felt anything so pure and consuming, like a hunger that devours all. Lyrian, whose astral form was just returning from the vastness of the lower scalar waves, felt a jolt at the very edge of their scalar wave defenses. It's not a single being, Kaelen. It's a collective, like a swarm, but far more organized. Their vibration is pure intent for domination. They lack internal harmony, but they are masters of external control. I've never seen such a scalar wave signature. A total alienation from the chain, a total hatred for everything that vibrates with life. At that moment, on the horizon of Sylvaenian sky, they appeared. Thousands of ships, neither entirely metallic nor organic, but something in between, with sharp, angular forms that absorbed the light of the two suns, leaving trails of distortion in the scalar waves. With the speed of thought, Kaelen's exceptional sight perceived their physical structure. They were the Kaelnar, a race of cosmic parasites, resembling termites, but encased in massive, angular armor with sharp limbs and tiny, red eyes that radiated emptiness. Their objective was clear: systematically conquer planets with less developed civilizations, draining resources until complete annihilation. Kaelen's mind instantly analyzed the situation. He sensed the Kaelnar's collective mind, their dominant urge: conquer, destroy. They lacked the emotional spectrum of the Sylvaenians, driven instead by a pure, pragmatic will for expansion and utter obliteration. They sought not harmony, but absorption and destruction. That was what made them so dangerous. They could not be healed by resonance. They could only be stopped. Reese, maximize all mental shields. Lead your armies. Kaelen's commands surged through the Sylvaenian mental network. Terrace, prepare scalar wave barriers. Lead your armies. Zil, focus on the planetary cores. Prepare to redirect energy. Lead your armies. Arian, have the dragons ready for ascent. Lead your riders. There was no panic, only pure, focused determination. They knew this was a different kind of battle. It was not for healing, but for survival. Each main character now led their numerous army of Sylvaenians, numbering billions of soldiers. each trained with the individual hero's powers, ready to defend their planet to the last spark of light. The Kaelnar ships descended upon Sylvaeron with brutal force. They did not pause for negotiation, nor did they send messages. Their only communication was the roar of their weapons, massive energy beams that began to descend towards Sylvaeron's surface, leaving scorched furrows on the ground. Their fighters, hundreds of thousands of them, were incredibly fast, almost invisible to the naked eye, moving like whirlwinds. The Kaelnar had no idea they had attacked a civilization far more advanced than themselves, not in raw power and destruction, but in the understanding and manipulation of the very fabric of reality. Arion, atop the mighty Celestos, felt the dragon's excitement and wrath. Celestos's aura pulsed with a silver glow, his eyes blazing with fearless might. Arion felt the dragon resonating with his will, ready for action. Dragons, into formation. Let the wind be our ally, and Scalar waves our wings. Riders, attack. Billions of Sylvaeron soldiers, each with their dragon, soared into the sky, their collective scalar wave fields forming a protective layer. They were not just transport. They were living, breathing weapons, capable of breathing pure, higher etheric energy. The Kaelnar ships began to launch smaller, faster vessels designed for interception, and thousands of ground troops descended onto the planet. These were Kaelnar drones and ground assault units, equipped with energy projectiles. But the Sylvaeons and their dragons were not just fast. They were fluid, unpredictable, guided by a collective consciousness. Unfortunately, despite the Sylvaeon's superiority, the Kaelnar's speed and numbers were such that there were many fallen Sylvaeon soldiers. Their sparks of light would return to the source, but the pain of loss was real. Eliana, with her expanded empathic senses, was at the heart of the action, leading thousands of her apprentices. She sat in a meditative posture at the base, her eyes closed, but her mind open to the sky. She felt the movement of every drone, the vibrations of their weapons, even the calculations of their AI systems. Arion, 3 drones are approaching Celestos from the left. One is targeting his throat. Her warnings were instantaneous, precise, and unerring. His less than Hasson, Celestos swiftly evaded the attack, turning in midair, then opened his great maw. Instead of fire, a stream of pure, concentrated higher etheric energy erupted from his jaws like a brilliant silver beam. This was the dragon's breath. The beam struck one of the drones, which disintegrated, its dissonant energy neutralized. Simultaneously, Zil and Terrace worked on the ground. Kaelnar troops, ugly, termite-like beings in armor, surged towards the Sylvaeons. Skillful Sylvaeons quickly began to construct energy barriers to protect themselves and their troops. These barriers were multi-dimensional. When the Kaelnar flew into them, their movements would appear like a slow-motion replay, and the Sylvaeons would easily hunt them and send them into orbit with energy beams, completely disorienting them. Taurus, with thousands of his apprentices, manipulated the ground beneath the Kaelnar. With masterful precision, Massive rocks erupted from the earth, forming labyrinths and traps, enclosing the Kaelnar troops in scalar wave cages. He didn't destroy them, but immobilized them. His creations were fluid, constantly shifting, turning the battlefield into a three-dimensional puzzle. Zil, with his understanding of elemental magic, alongside his apprentices, channeled the planet's energy, creating energy disks that moved at the speed of thought. These disks, shaped by his will, were not for cutting, but for disorientation and paralysis. They struck the Kaelnar troops' armor, causing no physical harm, but creating short circuits in their energy systems, rendering them temporarily immobile. Some disks rotated around the troops, creating scalar wave fields that confused them, disrupting their navigation and communication. Rhys, with tens of thousands of his apprentices, stood like an invisible bulwark. The Kaelnar, recognizing the Sylvaeron's telepathic communication, attempted to project mental attacks, waves of confusion and fear. But Rhys's scalar wave shields were not merely defensive. He shaped them into reflections, redirecting the Kaelnar attacks back at themselves, causing short circuits and temporary paralysis in their minds. He felt their utter confusion and disbelief. They hadn't expected this kind of resistance. Kaelen, observing the battle from the nexus of harmony, felt pride, but also a quiet realization. Their defense was brilliant, a perfect synthesis of scalar wave, power, and strategic wisdom. The Kaelnar were completely disoriented by the Sylvaeron's spectacular superiority. Their advanced technology had no answer to the Sylvaeron's ability to manipulate the very laws of reality. Lyrian, through the telepathic network, sent information to Kaelen. I sense their confusion, Kaelen. Their minds are like machines, calculating, but they don't understand. They don't grasp our methods. They thought we were primitive, that we would fight with brute force. But we are different. We are the very essence of the chain. We are the living energy of the universe. The Kaelnar, realizing they were losing, decided that instead of enslaving the planet, they would destroy it. The remaining Kaelnar retreated to their ships. The largest ship approached Sylvaeron, preparing for a final, desperate strike. From its core, a terrifying red beam began to form, a weapon capable of shattering planets. When the beam struck the planet, Sylvaeron trembled. It slowly began to tear it apart. The planet, through Kaelen's connection, screamed. At that moment, the mighty Sylvaeron's collectively united with the dragons. Without words, their wills merged. They redirected the colossal, higher etheric energy of the planet itself, amplified by the power of the golden and silver suns, into a single, blazing beam. The energy the Sylvaeron's and dragons directed at the threatening ship was so potent, so purifying, that it disintegrated the ship. Nothing remained but a pulsating spark that dissolved into the void of the universe. The Kaelnar fleet, without its flagship and completely disoriented, abandoned Sylvaeron, their remaining ships turning and vanishing into the depths of the universe. They left behind only a silent echo of their confusion and failure. The battle was won, but the cost was high. We won, but we were exposed. Kaelen telepathically shared with the entire community of Sylvaeonians as they gathered in a circle within the nexus of harmony. The Kael have retreated, but how many other civilizations like them are there in the universe? How many seek resources, caring nothing for life? Our subtlety is our strength, but it makes us invisible and therefore vulnerable to those who do not understand scalar waves. Nyana closed her eyes, allowing visions to intertwine. She saw countless stars, each with its planets, some blazing with life, some dark with suffering. She saw the shadows of various predators moving among them, hungry and insatiable. Kaelen is right. The universe is vast, and we are but a single spark. We must protect ourselves, not to hide, but to create a safe haven for our light, and for the light of others whom we may not be able to reach directly. Lyrian, in his astral form, tried to track the retreating Kaelnar ships, but quickly lost their trail. The universe was too vast, and they were too fast. He felt the cold emptiness among the stars, an infinite darkness that could swallow entire worlds. We are connected to the chain, but the chain encompasses all. Some threads are in danger. Kaelen, we cannot help them if we ourselves are not protected. Our invisibility to them was a curse. At that moment, a vision appeared, not from Nyana, but from the Lyrael Dawn, pure, radiant scalar wave entities, usually subtle in their presence, now shone with intense clarity. Their thoughts flowed into the collective consciousness of the Sylvaeonians. Protection, not retreat, but strengthening. Creation of a barrier, not for isolation, but for preservation. Your world is a lighthouse. Do not let its flame be extinguished. The vision was clear. A colossal, multi-dimensional structure encompassing the entire solar system, like an invisible, living wall, a barrier that not only protected against physical threats, but also rendered them invisible to the material universe, while simultaneously allowing the Sylvaeonians to continue their astral journeys. This was the Great Barrier. A multi-dimensional barrier, Kaelen repeated, feeling the weight and magnitude of the concept. Something we have never attempted before. It requires the collective strength of all Sylvaeonians, as well as an understanding of the universe's laws of the chain. We must manifest something that defies physical rules, creating an energy structure that exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Reese immediately began to contemplate the scalar wave architecture of such a barrier. If it's multidimensional, then it must manipulate not only space, but also time, or at least the perception of time. It must be woven into the very scalar waves, not just around our system, but through it, creating the illusion of non-existence. Zil, with his knowledge of elemental laws, grasped the implications. This means we must harness the pure energy of our suns and planets, not just channel it, but reshape it into an entirely new form, into something that is static yet fluid. It's like creating a planet, but without matter, a colossal undertaking. The decision was made. It was a monumental promise, the collective will of all Sylvaeonians to protect their kind and planet, and to ensure their world remained a beacon for the future of the chain. The construction of the Great Barrier was not a physical build, but a grand work of collective scalar wave manifestation. There were no machines, tools, or building materials, only pure concentration, will, and harmony of all Sylvaeonians focused on one colossal goal. The aim was to create a scalar wave structure that would exist beyond three-dimensional space, but project the illusion of emptiness onto the material plane. During the construction of the multi-dimensional barrier, from the higher etheric energy appeared the grandiose entities, architects of reality. These are entities that the Sylvaeonians believe are responsible for the very structure of the universe and the laws of physics that govern it. These magnificent entities merely oversaw the construction of the multi-dimensional barrier by the Sylvaeonians and Lyrael entities, without direct intervention, confirming the correctness of their undertaking. With the collective strength of all Sylvaeonians, help came from the Lyrael, who assisted them in creating the multi-dimensional barrier. They created the multi-dimensional barrier using the energy of scalar waves. Kaelen assumed the role of the central catalyst. His connection to the golden chain was the strongest. His understanding of scalar wave flows the deepest. He sat in meditative trance at the heart of the nexus of harmony, his aura expanding, encompassing the entire planet. Through him, the other Sylvaeonians connected, forming a unified network of consciousness. His internal monologue was an uninterrupted flow of energy. We must think as one, breathe as one. Every spark is a thread, every thought is energy. The barrier must be a reflection of our essence, impenetrable, yet invisible, like wind that cannot be caught. Reese, with tens of thousands of his apprentices, was responsible for the scalar wave architecture. His mind projected complex scalar wave networks, utilizing the principles of advanced mental shields on a cosmic scale. He visualized the Great Barrier as a series of concentric, multi-dimensional layers, each vibrating at a different frequency, creating the illusion of empty space. His internal dialogues were filled with calculations and vibrational resonances. The first layer must bend light and gravity. The second, to mask scalar wave signatures. The third, to disintegrate matter. It must be fluid, adapting, not a static structure, but a living will. Zil, along with his apprentices, worked on the energy cores. His skill in redirecting planetary energies was now crucial for maintaining the barrier. They channeled the pure energy of Sylvaeon's two sons, Golden and Silver, and the vital force of the planet itself into central points that supported the barrier's structure. His monologue was filled with a sense of responsibility. This is not just technology. This is symbiosis. The planet must breathe through the barrier, and the barrier through the planet. No thread must be broken, no cell depleted. We must create a self-sustaining system. Taurus, with thousands of his apprentices, was responsible for the manifestation and stabilization of physical perception, while Reese and Zil worked on the scalar wave and energetic aspects. Terrace, with his telekinetic abilities, influenced material reality itself, bending space and time on a subtle level so that universal travelers passing through the system would perceive an empty, unexplored sector. His focus was on perfect illusion, no repulsion, no obstacle, just a fluid passage as through an ocean of scalar waves. Their sensors must detect nothing, their minds suspect nothing, total, unobtrusive camouflage. Eliana, with her apprentices, was crucial for anomaly detection. Her empathic resonance could sense even the slightest fluctuation in the scalar wave network, confirming that the barrier functioned flawlessly. She could sense universal travelers passing through the outer layers, completely unaware of the presence of an entire solar system. Her new ability, form unveiling, allowed her to detect even the most subtle scalar wave imitations, ensuring that no entity could sneak through the barrier undetected. They pass through, unknowingly. They don't see us, they don't feel us, but I feel them, their intentions, their stories. The universe is full of life, but also emptiness. Lyrian, with tens of thousands of his apprentices, patrolled the astral plane, observing the process from beyond the material realm, tracking every energy signature of the barrier. They were the eyewitnesses who confirmed that the structure was forming correctly and that there were no adverse effects on the lower scalar waves. It's growing. I see it. It's magnificent, vast as a galaxy, yet transparent as a breath. We are creating a wonder. The process lasted many cycles. There was no rest, only an uninterrupted trance of collective will. All Sylvaeons, even the youngest, contributed their light, their harmony. The creation of the barrier was the greatest collective work they had ever undertaken, a test of their endurance, their connection to the chain. Finally, a pulse was felt, a scalar wave vibration that encompassed the entire solar system. The Great Barrier was complete. It could not be seen, touched, or detected by material means. Universal ships passing through the system registered no anomaly, their sensors showing empty space. Asteroids and comets approaching the system would simply disintegrate upon contact with the barrier, their matter transforming into pure energy, leaving no trace. The Sylvaeons were safe, but also isolated. Each of them felt the weight of that isolation, the realization that they were now completely invisible to the universe. This brought security, but also a new kind of solitude. They knew this was only the beginning of a new chapter, a step that would lead them to even deeper mysteries of the chain and their role in the universe. After the monumental undertaking of creating the Great Barrier, a peace unlike any ever experienced settled over Sylvaeron. It was not the silence of danger or anticipation. but a deep, all-encompassing serenity of complete security. Within the invisible embrace of the barrier, Sylvaeron's solar system became a silent oasis, a beacon of harmony hidden from the turbulent material universe. Life on Sylvaeron transformed. The constant vigilance, the shadow of fear from external threats, had vanished. The Sylvaeonians dedicated themselves to further deepening their connection with the Golden Chain, exploring higher etheric energy through expanded astral journeys and developing their innate abilities to unprecedented heights. Kaelen often meditated in the nexus of harmony, feeling the pulsation of the barrier itself. It was an extension of their collective will, a living entity created from scalar waves and consciousness. In his mental dialogues, he pondered the implications of their isolation. The barrier protects us, but it also separates us. Are we now guardians of a lighthouse whose flame is unseen? Is our role to preserve the light for those who will one day seek it, or to find a way to share that light without endangering ourselves? Nyana spent cycles in deep prophetic trances. Her visions were no longer interrupted by external dissonances. She could see further, more clearly, into the very threads of the fabric of destined silk, observing distant galaxies and civilizations, evolving, struggling, and suffering. She felt sorrow at the inability to intervene directly, but also the realization that their existence, however hidden, had its purpose. Our purpose is not to control, but to be, for our harmony to serve as an anchor for the chain, even when others do not know of us. Our existence is our greatest lesson for the universe. Lyrian expanded his astral journeys to unprecedented limits. He could now travel through the barrier itself without disrupting it, but by using its scalar wave structure as a kind of accelerator. He explored the lower scalar waves with greater confidence, encountering incomprehensible entities and learning about the complexity of cosmic planes. His monologues were exploratory. The barrier is not a wall, but a passage. It teaches us about the very nature of existence, about illusions and realities. We could reach the stars, not by physical ships, but by pure consciousness. Rhys continued to refine the path of the warrior of harmony. Now, without external threats, he focused on internal struggles. He taught the Sylvaeons how to heal deeply rooted traumas, how to free themselves from the last echoes of fear and anger. His mental shields now served as tools for internal purification, allowing them to explore their own subconscious without fear. The real battle is within. When we master ourselves, we have mastered everything. The barrier is an external manifestation of our internal strength. Zil, with Volos and other ancient Sylvaeons, dedicated cycles to studying water as a multidimensional information collector. They realized that within every drop of Sylvaeon's water lay a treasury of cosmic knowledge. Their research led to the discovery of new energetic properties of water, allowing them to use it as a medium for transmitting information at a planetary level on Sylvaeron. Water collects information from the planet it is on. Through it, we can learn, understand, and know that it is connected to the source. New life was born within the barrier. Newborn Sylvaeons were born with an even deeper understanding of the chain, with innate knowledge that surpassed previous generations. Their longevity, extended to thousands of cycles, ensured the continuous accumulation of wisdom and strength. Their society became a society of learning and knowledge, constantly evolving and adapting its mind to universal challenges. However, the question of their role in the universe remained. Was their isolation permanent? Would they ever again make contact with other civilizations? Or was their destiny to remain silent guardians, a lighthouse no one sees? The future was uncertain, but one thing was sure. The Sylvaeron's were ready to face any challenge the universe brought them. Although the Great Barrier physically protected Sylvaeron from external threats and rendered them invisible to the material universe, it could not stop the echoes of the golden chain. Within higher etheric energy, the Sylvaeron's were safe, but they were not blind to the suffering of other worlds. Through expanded astral journeys, particularly those of Lyrian and Nyana, they began to perceive the echoes of universal tragedies, worlds similar to Sylvaeron before they had liberated it. Lyrian, in his farthest astral projections, passed through regions he called forgotten worlds. These were planets that had fallen under the domination of various predators or other similar evil races. He did not see physical destruction, but a scalar wave void, muffled vibrations of life, trapped sparks that had been exhausted or enslaved. He felt the echo of despair, fear, and quiet surrender. It's like looking at our past selves. Lyrian telepathically conveyed to Kaelen and Nyana after a particularly arduous journey. His astral form was exhausted, though there was no physical fatigue. Entire worlds, drained to the core, their energy, their scalar waves, sucked dry. These predators use them as energy farms, emptying them until they turn into lifeless rocks. I see them, Kaelen, thousands of them, planets screaming softly in the scalar waves. Nyana supplemented his visions with prophetic insights. She saw the fates of these worlds, cycles of brutality and exploitation. Her visions intertwined with Lyrian's experiences, creating a terrifying picture of universal ruthlessness. The chain is weeping, Kaelen. I feel it. Millions of sparks have been extinguished or captured. The universe is full of predators, seeking power, not harmony. Kaelen listened, his heart aching with compassion. Their safety within the barrier was a blessing, but also a burden. Did they have a moral obligation to intervene, even when they were safe? The dilemma was profound. The Lyrial dawn had taught them about harmony and the invulnerability of the chain, but never about active intervention in universal conflicts. Our role is to protect the chain, but what if the chain is breaking elsewhere? Is our strength solely for our own protection, or for the protection of the entire fabric of destined silk? Kaelen's thought resonated in the collective consciousness. He understood that the barrier was necessary for their survival, but it also presented them with an ethical dilemma. Eliana felt the echoes of the suffering of these forgotten worlds, even within the barrier. Her empathy was so strong that she could perceive distant cries, the quiet sighs of millions of beings I feel their pain, but also their hope, Kaelen. Small sparks of hope flickering, even in the deepest darkness. Not all are lost. Some good races are fighting, and their sparks of light are faint, but present. Reese pondered the implications. If we intervene, we risk our security. If we don't intervene, we risk our purpose. The moral imperative is clear, but so is the danger. How can we influence without revealing ourselves, without compromising the barrier? A solution seemed elusive. A direct attack on the predatory empires would be suicide and would expose the barrier. But inaction was contrary to the very essence of the Sylvaeons. The answer lay in a deeper understanding of the chain, in discovering new ways of influence. The dilemma of the forgotten worlds troubled the Sylvaeons for cycles. They could not physically intervene, but neither could they ignore the suffering. The answer came through a deepened understanding of the very nature of the golden chain and higher etheric energy. Kaelen spent cycles in deep meditations with the Lyrael Dawn, these scalar wave entities who were closely connected to the source, revealed subtle ways to influence distant worlds. They taught him that the Great Barrier was not just a shield, but a powerful resonator. It could channel focused scalar wave vibrations from Sylvaeron into distant parts of the universe without revealing their physical presence. We cannot save every world physically, Kaelen, the Lyrael Dawn whispered through the scalar waves. But we can send a whisper through scalar waves. We can send a vibration of hope, harmony, resistance. Dissonance feeds dissonance, but harmony also spreads. We are the seed of that harmony. The barrier is the channel. This new strategy required unprecedented scalar wave discipline and collective concentration. All Sylvaeons united. Kaelen was the conductor. Nyana focused the visions of the most vulnerable worlds and good races that were fighting. Lyrian navigated the scalar wave currents, while Reese and Eliana ensured the purity and strength of the projected vibration. The process was similar to creating the barrier, but with an inverted purpose. Instead of containing energy, they projected it. Zil used the planetary cores to amplify the signal, and Terrace manipulated scalar waves at a scalar level to focus and direct the vibration. The collective consciousness of the Sylvaeons would unite, and Kaelen would direct their shared intention. They would visualize a vibration of pure hope, defiance, and harmony. This vibration, amplified through the nexus of harmony and guided through the scalar wave channels of the Great Barrier, would travel faster than light, penetrating the scalar waves of the forgotten worlds and other endangered galaxies. The first test was a world marked by a scalar wave void. Lyrian observed, feeling the whisper travel. At first, nothing. Then, a subtle change, a small spark of resistance, awakened by the vibration. It wasn't magical intervention, but an impetus, a memory of their own strength that these beings had suppressed under predatory tyranny. Through the scalar waves, the Sylvaeons whispered to them, "You are not alone. There is hope. Fight. Find your chain. In the cycles that followed, Lyrian and Nyana began to notice changes. Small sparks of resistance merged, forming smaller but discernible threads. Various predators, including the Kelnar, felt the changes. Their minds calculated, confused by the source. Their parasitic minds could not comprehend the existence of harmony as a weapon, or that any other race was capable of influencing in such a way without a physical presence. This became the new mission of the Sylvaeonians: to whisper through the scalar waves, to be invisible observers and invisible instigators of hope, to spread the chain, not by force, but by subtle vibration. In doing so, they became something more than mere guardians of their world. They became guardians of universal hope, an invisible force supporting balance in a turbulent universe. Their isolation was not a prison, but a sanctuary from which they could spread light. While the Sylvaeons sent the whisper through scalar waves to the forgotten worlds and good races, they simultaneously deepened their own understanding of the golden chain and the universe. They realized that their new role required knowledge that surpassed their previous understanding. The search for the crystal gates and etheric books, ancient repositories of universal knowledge, became a priority. Zil, with his unique ability to communicate with water as a multidimensional information collector, took the lead in this mission. He spent cycles by Sylvaeron's sacred waterfalls and crystalline lakes, immersing his consciousness in the water matrix. The water revealed complex maps to him, not geographical, but scalar wave, guideposts to gates and books hidden not only on Sylvaeron, but also on other planets. Water. It remembers everything. Zil telepathically conveyed to Kaelen. I sense the echoes of forgotten civilizations, ancient journeys. The crystal gates are not just portals, they are keys. Each is locked by a scalar wave enigma, unique to the planet it resides on. The etheric books are collections of solutions, records of universal laws, the rules of the chain. All crystal gates on planet Sylvaeron were eventually found and unlocked. The first gate, the one they used to banish Umbra Nox, was on Sylvaeron itself. Amon, the ancient guardian of the gate, was now more open than ever. He shared fragments of scalar wave records with Zil, ancient whispers of the Lyriel Dawn, describing a complex network of gates across the galaxy, all connected by the fabric of destined silk. Zil, with the help of Volos, began to decipher these scalar wave maps. They were complex, full of symbols and vibrational signatures, not words. They used the collective wisdom of the Sylvaeonians, as well as Nyana's visions, to interpret these guideposts. Each location presented a unique challenge. Some gates were hidden in scalar wave vortices, others in the hearts of dead stars, and some even within living, conscious planets. Lyrian, of course, was crucial for astral journeys to these gates. His ability to move through scalar waves, now amplified by using the Great Barrier as an accelerator, allowed him to traverse immense distances in the universe. However, the journeys were not without risk. The lower scalar waves still teemed with incomprehensible entities and scalar wave predators who were drawn to the light of Lyrian's soul. Reese refined mental shield techniques for astral travel, projecting invisible barriers around Lyrian, while Eliana detected and warned of the presence of danger. The opening of each gate unlocked portions of the etheric books. These were not physical books, but scalar wave records, woven into the chain itself. The knowledge they acquired was vast, an understanding of universal history, ancient civilizations, the laws of the multiverse, and the subtle influences that shaped reality. They learned about the early forms of the golden chain, about the falls and rises of civilizations, about the balance between light and darkness. They learned about the true purpose of various predators, not just aggressors, but beings who had lost their connection to the chain and were now obsessed with draining others' energy. Every piece of knowledge they gained deepened their purpose. The more they understood the chain, the better they could send the whisper through scalar waves and support endangered races. They discovered that some etheric books contain knowledge of the dragon's breath, not just as a weapon, but as an energy that could heal and reshape, not just destroy. However, the Sylvaeron still could not ascend into higher etheric energy. It was not forbidden, but entities like the Lyriel Dawn knew that the Sylvaeons were not yet ready for this leap, as they lacked one component in their evolution. The quest for ancient knowledge became their lasting commitment. They realized that understanding the universe was key to their role as guardians of the universe, and that this knowledge would be necessary for all future challenges, even when they were safe behind the Great Barrier. The acquisition of ancient knowledge through the crystal gates and etheric books, as well as the ability to send a whisper through scalar waves, brought the Sylvaeons immense power, but also the burden of enormous responsibility. They realized that all knowledge and all power come with ethical dilemmas and potential consequences. Kaelen, as the leader, felt the full weight of this responsibility. In his meditations, he would often consult with the Lyriel Dawn, seeking wisdom in the application of their new abilities. When we can influence, should we? When we know of another's suffering, is that a call for intervention, even if subtle? How far does our role as guardians of the chain extend? His internal dialogues were filled with philosophical questions. One of the most important lessons came from the etheric books. Knowledge about the very nature of various predators, including the Kaelen. They were not merely evil parasites, but beings who, during universal cycles, had alienated themselves from the golden chain, losing the ability to resonate with harmony. Their greed for resources was an expression of a deep, universal hunger, an emptiness they could not fill. The books hinted that there was once a civilization of these predators that was in alignment with the chain before they became estranged, pursuing material power. They are lost sparks, Kaelen. Nyana telepathically conveyed to Kaelen after one vision. Although they are now predators, they were once part of the chain. Can we bring them back, or is their fate sealed? With a whisper, we can awaken hope in others. But can we heal those who have strayed so far? The dilemma deepened. Should the Sylvaeons continue only to spread hope, or should they try to directly oppose, at least through scalar waves, those who abused the chain? The decision was to continue sending the whisper, but with a new focus on understanding. They also began to send vibrations that called for deeper peace, for an end to conflict, for reconnection with the chain, targeting the scalar wave core of predatory empires. Eliana began to sense the complexity of universal interactions. Not everything was black and white. Some worlds, despite suffering, had the inner strength to find their own path to liberation. Encouraged by the whisper, others were too broken. Their judgment of when and where to intervene became crucial. They had to learn to balance help with respect for the free will of other civilizations. Reese introduced new chapters to the path of the warrior of harmony, teaching the Sylvaeons how to cope with the moral weight of knowledge. Meditations included confronting their own sense of helplessness in the face of universal suffering, learning to accept that they could not save everyone, but that every small action held significance. Zil realized that their role was not only to fight, but also to learn from history, to understand patterns, and to find new, unconventional ways of influence. Volos shared ancient tales of the cycles of awakening and falling of civilizations in the universe, reminding them how fragile balance was. The question remained, would the moment come when they would have to leave the safety of the Great Barrier and directly confront a threat too great to be resolved by a mere whisper? Or was their destiny to remain invisible guardians, patiently whispering through the scalar waves, awaiting the moment when the universe would harmonize once more? The Sylvaeons realized that their role as guardians of the universe was dynamic, constantly evolving. They had to remain vigilant, continue to learn, and be prepared for whatever the future held. No matter how difficult and uncertain, they knew the path ahead was long, but they were ready. Spread the word about our civilization as far as possible, to everyone you know, so that all may hear and discover the wonders of the Sylvaerons. For the more you know about us, the closer will be the moment of our arrival.